Alright then, just setting up the camera so I can do things correctly, you know? Haven't really done one of these kind of videos in a while, you know what I mean? Like it's been quite a bit since I last done a video like this, you know? And I'm setting stuff on the side over here. I'm gonna turn the fan on. I got problems. You probably got problems. But what am I gonna do? Make my worries go away? Or try to make my worries go away because, oh, I had a slight problem. Therefore, I gotta destroy the world because of it. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not going to do that. And the thing is, I'm trying to does make you think. Really does make you think. I'm making this type of video, and this type of video is just me talking for however long, you know? That kind of thing. Where I'm just talking for however amount of time, you know, until either the video stops or I decide to stop the video or something happens, you know. I just talk about whatever, and then once I'm done making the video, what I do is I live stream the video. Like I put it at a certain time, I put it on a certain date, I let it upload, and then I live stream it, you know? That's what I do. So, I'm just gonna be talking about whatever, you know? There's not really much to talk about, really, because a lot has already been talked about. And yes, I am eating with my fingers. And you might go, why would you do that? Why would you eat with your fingers? Why are you eating rice pudding with your fingers? I'm very cheap. I'm a kind of a cheaphead, okay? I don't really like using spoons too much. And I say kind of because I do sometimes buy expensive stuff, but you know, currency still has meaning to me, you know? So I'm cheap like this for a reason, you know? Started rewatching The Flash again. Finishing up season 4. And I mean again because I've watched all 9 seasons when they originally came out. You know? I remember when that show, The Flash, was new. I remember when the very first episode of it ever came out. And people were just so upset at the time. Like, you would not believe it today because of how big it is now. But I genuinely believe that if a show like that were to start making episodes today, it would have never been as nearly as successful as it was. You know? Like, yes, Arrow was a cash cow, but Flash was the bigger cash cow. And they just kind of ended Arrow because lore reasons, I guess. Did you know the guy that plays as Arrow, or played as Arrow, he's Canadian, or Canadian American, something like that? I don't know, he's a famous actor. He's like if Giga Chad was a superhero. You know? That's basically who he played as when he was in Arrow. Now, he's not gonna be like that ever again. You know? It is what it is. And I think he was like, I'm not sure, but I think he's like in his 40s now, 30s, 40s now. But he pretty buff looking guy. Don't know why. Maybe he just never completely weared off being Arrow slightly. You know, like he knows he's so popular with that one character. Like, you ever seen like celebrities that are just like, there's one character that they played that gets so popular, that's all they're really known for? Like Pee Wee Herman. Not his real name, by the way. He was known as a very annoying guy, which I don't really agree with. I just thought he was really weird, but nothing really that annoying. But I get it, he was like really popular at the time, you know? And Pee Wee Herman, the guy who played as Pee Wee Herman, he played it so much that it put him in jail, you know? Because he played that character for so long and so much that he just became that character over time, you know? And then when he got arrested, it kind of forced him into a reality check, but it raised an uproar in the news. And this was back when the news was becoming like, the TV news was becoming the ultimate mainstream source of news. Like, it was already mainstream, but this was during the time when it was starting to get like huge, big time, you know, with monoculture and everything. And that's just how it was. Then eventually 2010's come around. You know, you got Larry the Cable Guy, which, again, not a real name. But, he plays that character so much that people don't even really know that it's him. It's like his ultimate secret identity, kind of, you know? Like, it gets stuck in your head if you play that character for so long. Not gonna lie, if I only was really known for one specific character, say, one specific movie or TV show, yeah, that's cool and whatever, but it's like, I want to be able to do things. But the problem with having people who are really only known, or if you only really know an actor from a movie or a TV show, you ever watch another movie or a TV show with that actor in it, and they're not playing that character at all, and it's not related to anything really, of that character at all? Like, for example, you know that guy that played as the Reverse Flash in the CW version, the 2010s CW version of The Flash? Let's just say he was in a Yogi Bear movie. And for a couple of those scenes, I really thought, like, uh-oh. This guy, he's gonna do a Reverse Flash on Yogi Bear. Like, that's what I genuinely thought. And it really gets on people's minds, And I know I make long content. I make really long content, But it's not the longest type of video I've ever made. The longest video I think I've ever made, at least that I posted on YouTube, was like 2 hours long. And I think my limit is like right around an hour, but that's just kind of like because that's usually just how far I normally go. And that's probably how far this video is going to go, if it gets to that point. And, yeah. I'm eating rice pudding. Rice pudding. It sounds disgusting, but it's really not. It's really not. It's just like kind of a random combination of things. But it's a good food, It's a good food. It's what I like. I don't know about you. You probably hate rice pudding. I don't know. If you have a long enough attention span to watch this video, shout out to you guys. Now, for this portion of the video, this is where we get into the real controversial, juicy stuff, Where you get into that in-between hours, so that way you can cover all the big controversial stuff without having to, get demonetized for it. But I'm not worried about getting demonetized for it. I could have done it in the beginning of this video, but I didn't. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about it because I'm not really trying to make money on here anyway. I mean, sure, it's a part of it, but it's not like I want you to give up your money, Even if you were like upper class, like you could spend it on things you actually need to spend it on, that kind of thing. Or don't. I'm not your financial advisor. Okay? I'm not somebody to give financial advice. Okay? So I cannot confirm nor deny you spending or not spending money on whatever you may need. Not want, not say you need for something that you want, but something that you actually need, like good food, clean and clear water, clean, clear, and drinkable water. That kind of thing. And, also, you know, like things like, medical supplies, or, say, things for your disabilities, you know, emergency stuff, or whatever. And, what are you gonna do if you are homeless? You know? What the fuck are you gonna do? Nothing ever happens. They're all obsessed with it. You know? They're all obsessed with something. People. You know? All people are humans. But not all humans are people. You know? Controversial statement, I know. Controversial. You know? But the reason why I say that is because, like, if you think about it, an unborn baby could have became a person. But then abortion came around and they were like, no. In fact, you can't be doing that. Like, I can understand in cases of, like, rape or incest, or in cases where it's like, it's neither good for the baby to really exist because it's like it causes a bunch of problems anyway, and it's just really bad for the mother because it would probably kill that woman anyway in those rare cases. But you shouldn't just get an abortion just to get an abortion. You know, like, you have to have real reasons to get an abortion because, well, it's a fucking abortion. Even if you successfully get that baby out from doing this abortion, the problem is that it can cause medical problems, you know? And even if it's just like one time and you never get pregnant again, you can still have long-term problems from doing abortions. Yes, you can have long-term problems from getting pregnancy, but you're more likely to get more death, you know, turning issues if you get a lot of abortions, especially, you know? And the older you get, the more heavier it does to you, you know? Especially if you're above the age of 25. And above, I mean older than 25 years of age. And you're a cisgendered female, as they tend to call them. Like, that's what you were born as. Alright? I don't care if you're a trans man or whatever. If you give birth to babies, like, you can naturally give birth to babies. Because, you know, you have a vagina or whatever. And that vagina makes you pregnant with the babies. Like actual, literal, physical babies. Like human babies. Then, by biological definition, and this is what they mean by biological woman, they mean cisgendered woman. And when most people refer to woman, they mean cisgendered woman. Do I make that clear? You know, because I want to I want to help the transgenders who are unaware. You know? Not because I want to shame them or anything, but it's like, there are so many uneducated transgenders who think that, oh, if they can't consent to HIT or something like that, they can't consent to puberty. Like, that's not how puberty works. Puberty just comes as factory reset. It just comes by default. You know, it's not something that, you know, you can just not have. It's something you're just gonna have to live with. And then there are people who are like, but I was born without consent. And it's like, yeah, you were born without consent. True. You were spawned into this world without your consent. But that's because it's one of those things where you being born was not really your choice, simply for the fact that, well, you would be not alive if somebody didn't make that choice for you. You know, it's one of the few rare times where, because somebody else made a choice, you get to have choices in the first place. You know, if you were never born, you wouldn't be saying this, you know? But, I mean, I get it, you know? I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, like, oh, I spawned into this world not knowing anything about it, you know? Like, when you're born into this world, you don't know shit. You don't know shit of shit, you know? You might understand instincts, but you don't understand it quite yet, you know? You're just spawning in. And then eventually, as you get older and older, you start learning basics of the basics of the basics. Then you learn the basics of basics. And then once you get to like 3 or 4, that's when you're at the age where you start to learn the basics for the first time ever in your life. What are the basics? Walking, speaking, or hand signing, or hand signing. Then you know, there's reading and writing. That's a basic one. There's having critical thinking, which people don't really have these days. But at least unlocking skills. You know? That kind of thing. Playing outside with your buddies. You know? Or whatever. And little kids, they're so fucking stupid. But it's not like they're intentionally trying to be stupid. It's just out of ignorance. They don't know shit yet, you know? You can teach them. But you have to teach them in a way where you have to teach them at that person's age, you know? Like talking to a 4-year-old is going to be slightly different, or very different, depending on the person, from a 7-year-old, you know? That's just how it is. Talking to a newborn is obviously going to be very different from talking to a, 2 or 3-year-old. That kind of thing. And there are these people called transgenders. And what are transgenders, or transgenderism, or as they sometimes refer to themselves as, trannies or troons or toons? I'm not talking Looney Tunes, okay? I'm talking like the identity thing. Basically, let's say a real life scenario, right? Let's say you're a cisgendered, which is a word for somebody who was born biologically male, physically male. You know, let's say they were, completely male, completely, born that way, raised that way, because most people just raised based off of who you're born as, And if you ask me, that's the default, that's obviously how life is supposed to go. If you're born a certain way, they're going to treat you however you were born, So if you're born male, that society is going to treat you how they treat men in that specific society at that specific time. But they're going to treat you as obviously a baby because you'd be a baby at that time. That kind of thing. And, from 0 to 3, they still treat you like a baby. Because you kind of are. But once you hit 4, you're no longer, like 3 or 4, you're no longer baby mode, New feature, little kid. And then, once you hit 6 or 7, you unlock young kid. Then, once you're 8, 7 to 7 to 9, you unlock kid. And then 10 to 12, you unlock the rest of just childhood. And then once you hit 13, you're a teenager. You're no longer in childhood anymore, and you're a teenager. Okay? Tweens are not really a thing. That was because of monoculture, and it only really existed in certain parts of first world countries. So, even if you were in a tween culture era, that just never really existed for a lot of people. The only real people that I know that really experienced tween era stuff was usually specifically millennials or older side of Generation Z, my generation. But the whole generational thing, it's a social construct, but it was basically just made because people back in World War I, at the end of World War I, during the post-World War I era, had to come up with an idea of what to call the generation that spawned before World War I, that came in during World War I and after World War I, especially after World War I. And this was during the, what I like to call the golden age, not golden age, the optimistic age, or the optimistic era. That kind of thing. The age of optimism. Between the end of World War I and the beginning of World War II. Now, if my math is correct, World War I ended in, 1919? So, from 1919 to about 1939, that would have been the optimistic era, because people were so optimistic, they were so glad that the war was over, that they did not account for, they did not account for when you open borders, it leads to problems. It leads to people that are not from your country coming in and trying to invade your country. And this sounds obvious to us now, but back in the day, it was like a new thing to do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It was like very revolutionary to them back then. It was very just new in general. But during World War I, especially after World War I, it led on to the Nazi movement. But back then, it was more of a party, and it was more of a different thing. It's not really how it is today, quite really. It wasn't really quite like that, but it was mostly because of Hitler going through World War I that led him to join that movement, and then he became the face of that movement. But it really wasn't until the late 1930s that he came into power and came into rule, and it wasn't really until 1938, 1939, to be more specific, that he went full, power mode with his dictatorship. And he did, well, history. And, it led to a 6-year war called World War II. And, was it good? No. Was it great? No. You might ask, well, what about World War I? Why is it called World War I? Isn't that mostly a European war? Yeah, but it's called a world war because it's a war. It's about the world powers. The world powers at the time, the top world powers, fighting each other in an actual war. Okay? So it was mostly Europe because at that time, the Europeans were the dominant group. And I would say that for about 25 years, for the 20th century, that era between World War I and World War II, most of that, and obviously the Second World War, I would say that time period is, that's interesting. That time period, I would say, is the golden age of that century. And most golden ages, they usually last somewhere between 20 to 30 years. Usually 25 to 30 years, But yeah, generally speaking, for the past however long, ever since people became really, really advanced, ever since they had verifiable, historically verifiable golden ages, that's how it's been. And whenever they have a golden age, the most well-known historical events from that century generally happen from that time. Now, yes, in the 21st century, they have 9/11. They have, I think it was, the War on Terror? Or the War on Drugs, or whatever. There was that. That's how that was going. And there are many other historical events, like Michael Jackson's death, which, again, don't get me wrong, there are exceptions here and there that, historically speaking, that was around before and after, the world wars that century is known for. That, obviously, those time periods exist in everything else in between. But what I'm referring to is what is the most famous, well-known, historical things. And I want to say 2025 to about 2055. I could be wrong about that. That were the biggest historical events to happen, the most well-known, biggest major historical events to happen in this century will happen, And I want to say the first one that I can think really became the biggest major historical event. Yes, there was the 2024 election, but that was kind of expected. It's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is and I know this is controversial, Charlie Kirk assassination. And I made videos about it at the time, at that year, in that same month, I think. When I was making videos in 2025. I'm pretty sure he's dead, really dead. but I'm still not 100% sure because it's still speculative, you know? But it's more historically accurate to say that he's actually dead. You know, he was actually killed. That kind of thing, unfortunately. And right now we're still in the post-Charlie Kirk era. Okay? And I think that's going to be post-Charlie Kirk era may end right around, I want to say, no, I could be wrong here, but it's probably not going to end until at least 2032, you know, or 2033, I guess, you know, depending on who you ask, and depending on where you're getting your information from. But that's the longest I assume it's going to last. If it is, it's big. If it is as big as it originally was, you know, if it still has some cultural chutzpah to it, which, given who Charlie Kirk was, it's going to stay at least semi-relevant for many decades afterwards, you know, especially, I want to say, especially in the 2050s, you know, I don't know why, but I have a feeling, but I could be wrong about that, though, given that there's quite a bit of time in between those, you know, eras. But what I'm more concerned about is that, the 22nd century, I want to say their golden age, is probably going to be a lot longer. All I can really say is that 2130 or 2136 is going to be, or 2135, again, depending on who you ask. That's going to be quite a time, you know? If you ask me, that would be the beginning of their golden age, and I want to say it will probably end somewhere between 2160 and 2166, you know, that period of time, because there's 80-year spans where after a golden age there's about an 80-year span where nothing really happens, nothing much happens, that kind of thing. In 80 to 75, sometimes 85-year span, but generally for most centuries, which, if you're talking about the 22nd century, which I don't know why they call it that, because it has 21 in its century name, so why do they call it the 22nd century? Why don't they call it that, the 21st century, in the 21st century, the 20th century, and the 20th century, the 19th century, you know what I mean, and so on and so forth, and in the future as well, you know? I think it's just because that's just how people like to say it, because of 0 century, the 0 century, which would make a lot more sense to call it, you know, because they don't like it for whatever reason. The 0 century, okay? Not the 1st century, the 0 century. That would make quite a bit more sense, you know? I don't know what else to tell ya. And that's how that works. Now that I think about it, isn't Jesus' death more important than his birth? Well, obviously. So then why did that Pope make his birthday on what we now declare as 0 AD? Not 080, 0 A, the letter A, and then D, the letter D. AD. Alright? I don't know what it stands for. That's just what they do with it. Alright? And if you're watching this in the year that it was released on or not, but the current year it was released on was in 2026. AD. And those are 2 dots at the end of both of those. Okay? To make more sense with the lingo. Well, anyway, he died in 33 AD. Jesus did. Now, how he died, what way he died, did he resurrect from the dead, whatever, that's debatable. But what isn't exactly debatable is that he lived for 33 years. Okay? That's how long he lived for. You know? That's just how it is. That is just how it really is. You know? And that was like, what? I'm not sure, maybe a long time. This is like the height of Rome when he died. It was like at the peak, at the height of Rome, or whatever. And God or not, he did popularize the most known religion in the world, Christianity. So that's a big one. That's a big one, you know. Then you get into the wojo mojo with the politics. Oh boy, the politics. You know, you have the right-wingers, where you have the fucking hoodly dongers. You have the I hate Jewish people group. And, say I hate the state group. Then you get to the left. Then you have I hate the Jews group. But the group right and the group left that both hate the Jews hate them for different reasons. The right hates them because they're, you know, the right, and they have ideologies. Some of them, not completely, but some of them have the ideologies where because it's older or because it's not of our traditions specifically. That's foreign. But I can get it if it was like, oh, they were doing some wrong illegal shit. If that's what that was, yeah, I would see it. But not really. Not really. You know, Jewish people follow the laws because in Jewish countries they make the laws, you know? That kind of thing. I don't know what else to tell you, bro. It is what it fucking is. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Ba-ba. Wow. Ba-ba. Bang. But yeah, and then you have the I hate the fucking deadhead, but they get paid by the deadhead, and they're a fucking anarchy. And then the other version of it is what is it? What the fuck is it? If you ask me, that fucking answer is well, Hassan Piker. And Hassan Piker, he's one of those individuals that are like, communism, socialism, I support that, but I'm not gonna say I'm supporting that, but I support that. So, this kind of nation, innovation, and he says all these fancy words sometimes, and he sometimes wears a fucking suit, and, he goes all crazy with electrocuting the dogs or whatever. But yeah, he's just like a crazy nut job he's a racial communist, so he puts race into stuff and whatever, yada yada yada. I think you get the idea where instead of really blaming classes for everything, which they kind of do, that's not the big thing for them. Switch out the whole class Marxist bullshit. All you have to do is just replace the word class with race and or ethnicity. Race and ethnicity. Okay? That kind of thing. Because sometimes he'll say he's white. Sometimes he's not saying he's white. But then when he's Muslim, oh no. He's a special type of brown person. When you identify as Muslim, you're a special type of brown person. Like, you can be religiously Jewish, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're ethnically or racially Jewish. Like, people don't really understand that. Like, it's also a religion. It's a ethno-religion. Islam is technically that way, but not really. Okay, it's not really. Like, some of your strict devout followers might say it is, but for the majority, no, it's obviously not, because it's one of those religions where, yes, it's associated with a certain type of ethnic group, but that's really because the original followers of that religion were, ancient, old Arabic speaking, ancient classical Arabic speaking people that, wrote a book a specific way and didn't like to change it because how dare you, even though this group has their book, this group has their book, this group has their book, or whatever, that kind of thing, where it's like they all have their different versions of it, but they all fucking claim. That they have the truest word of Allah, which is their word for God, because they are what you want to call a monotheistic religion, meaning they only believe in one God, and that's what they say. And they say that the holiest prophet and the truest one and last truest one to ever exist in the greatest of all prophets of Islam is Muhammad. Okay, this Muhammad guy. Alright, this green warrior. Okay? I don't know why. They just really like to associate with themselves with green. Now, I'm not really sure if this illiterate guy actually wore green in ancient times. Nobody really knows if he wore green the way they say he wore green. But they get really fucking mad in some places when you show his face. Like, how can you get mad at somebody's face if you don't even know what the fucking guy looks like? I'm confused. If you're not allowed to show his face, how do you know what he fucking looks like? How do you know? Did Allah promise you his face thousands of years ago? What, are you just trying to pull like a Jewish neo-Christian bullshit and then combine it to make your own religion? Because, like, they were sort of their own group, and they were like Muhammad was a part of Judaism, so some of his followers, were a part of it, and his more devout followers, well, it wasn't the Islam we know it as today, because obviously, it wasn't really its own religion quite yet, because obviously, he was trying to get along at the time, but Jews didn't like him for whatever reason. Maybe because he was trying to preach something else that they didn't agree with, for whatever reason, so they kicked him out. But he did inherit some of their traditions because, he believed in one God or whatever. So he went to the Christians, because at that time, Christians were really starting to become pretty dominant. But then the Christians were like, well, we heard about the Jews, what you did with them. We'll check you out. Then they checked them out. And then they kicked them out because they didn't align with their Bible. He wasn't aligned completely with the Jewish Torah. And he wasn't aligned with the Torah Bible, or just the Holy Bible for Christians. If you want to be more specific, the ancient original Christians, okay? The OGs of the OGs. Just a few hundred years after that, Because Muhammad wasn't alive during Jesus' time, obviously. He was born 700 or so years after, he died. Jesus, that kind of thing, if you want to be historically accurate about it. And this Muhammad guy he was like a big time warrior, of his era. Because back then, and it's it is relevant now to an extent, but it's not like every single Muslim is out there calling war. But at this time, it was during a great time of war. So, a lot of his beliefs and a lot of his, things that he believed in were very, warlike, because at the time, they were constantly at war. So he was going to have his religious beliefs sound like a fucking war soldier, where he wanted to, get rid of all these people. And so because of it, he didn't want to just get rid of the, religions that didn't believe in one God. He wanted to get rid of not just the Jews, but he also wanted to get rid of the Christians. Okay? And any follower that didn't 100% agree. Because again, war times. And when you're in war times like that, in beliefs like that, guess what's gonna fucking happen? You're gonna have a guy who comes along, and because this was a long time ago, he could get away with it. And even if Islam is the true religion, you gotta admit that Muhammad's interpretation of it is that of a guy who fought a lot of wars. He was a warlord from a long time ago, and your God just so happened to see him as a prophet. Very strange with that kind of logic. Because in the West, in Western Muslims, they tend to say stupid stuff like, Islam is the religion of peace. Now, there are Eastern Muslims and Southern Muslims and Northern Muslims that tend to say it, but it's mostly Western culture Muslims. Western cultures that come from Western cultures. Those kind of Muslims, specifically of Sharia and Sunni, tend to say that a lot. And guess what? That's not generally what the Easterns say. The big thing with them that especially if it's coming from Iran, Saudi Arabia, countries like that are very Muslim dominant and Muslim heavy, that kind of thing, and they're just generally a Islamic society and Islamic culture. They're not going to say, oh, my religion is the religion of peace. You're going to see these motherfuckers that are going, God may cause a war, Allah may cause a war. But Allah is the God of submission. You have to submit to Him. That's what they mean. Now, I'm not a Muslim. I don't get into that shit because I don't want to deal with being called a kafir all the fucking time. Although I do get called one whenever I go to fucking Dearborn. But Dearborn, Michigan, it's a very Islamic town in the U.S. I would say the most Islamic town in the U.S. Probably not in all of North America, but at least in my home country. That's a big deal. Big deal, you know? And they're like, what? Sunni Muslims, I think? I don't know. I'm not into that. But from what I'm told, there are a lot of other groups too there. But don't be a Jew or a Christian, because they'll come after you for some reason. Especially if you're not a part of their religion anymore. Like, it's one thing for them to come after a person who was never a part of their religion to begin with. But what they call a kafir, a once believer, somebody who used to believe in it, especially if they were born and raised into it. You know? Especially if they were pure into it and really stronger than most people. They get really offended about it. Even if the person comes back, they're still like, you suspicious, you know? Like, that's just how they treat them. Not all. Again, there are exceptions. Unless you're a woman. That's a different story. Now, a man, maybe, because, you know, it's a very strict religion, and they tend to, be more to the men. But it's a little too strict for the women, you know, because of the whole hijab thing or whatever. Now, I get it. It comes from an era when, like, people were more into sex slavery, things like that. I get it. But, like, that was then. You know, we like, I could probably get it if you were living in fucking Saudi Arabia or some bullshit like that. But in the United States? Really? Dog, you look like a Buzz Lightyear. You look like NFL player, you know, without the helmet on. That's funny to think about. You know? Now, I'm not trying to shit on the Muslims, okay? You have your own issues to deal with. But it's like, if you can't acknowledge your issues, you're not gonna do so well if, say, one day, for whatever reason, you just, or I don't know, deconvert to that, from that religion. You know, I'm not saying like, that's what's gonna happen, but like, if you were in that kind of scenario, what the fuck would you do? What would you do? You know? What would you do if you were in that kind of situation? That kind of thing, and you couldn't convert back. That's just one example. That's just one fucking religion. Islam. Not a big fan of it. Anyway, enough about that. That was having to do with Hasan Piker. Now, on to the more important bit. Asmongold. Asmon. My king. My roach king. He's my guy. My goat. My goat. This Asmongold guy. He's pretty based. He's pretty based. Now, I don't agree with everything he fucking says, because he's Asmongold, of course. Even with the most people you like or agree with, they're gonna say something you disagree with inevitably, you know? Because even I get suspicious of people that I always agree upon. Now, there's a rare exceptions. But even then, I'm still like, I'm odd that you agree with everything I say. The only person that agrees with everything that I say is either one of two things. It's either fucking, what's that one person's name? Oh yeah, Mr. Bro 101. Me. Look at me. I'm my best person. I'm my closest ally. I'm my closest friend that I can trust the most. you know? And even I'm suspicious that I agree with everything that I have, at the moment. I have disagreements from me in the past, but like, my major disagreements with me in the past are mostly with stuff that is like, like a year old at earliest. There's nothing like in the immediate right now, I'm going to disagree with what I just said. That never really happens. I mean, it could, but it just doesn't often happen, It just doesn't often happen. That kind of thing. And I just, no. I gotta make this a little less about me, because I know, I'm making it about myself, but it's like, let's be for real. It's not like I intended to talk about this specific thing today, right? But Hassan Piker, the Cockroach King, not Hassan Piker, Asmongold fucking Gold, the real Cockroach King, or actually I should say, the Cockroach God. What do you think? You're probably really confused on why this video was really, really long. But, you're the one who decided to watch this. I'm talking words out of my mouth and I'm thinking my thoughts through this. I have very controversial opinions. I don't like California. I used to semi-like California. But it's like, ever since the whole 2020 thing went around, in 2020, the pandemic, it's like California just went into a shit show. Like, it was already a shit show, but it was like, oh yeah, it was like the bad sides of California, like any other state. Just so happened to be where Hollywood is or whatever. Then the 2020 pandemic happened, and then, we had motherfuckers going crazy. Ugh. And they was pissed. They were really fucking pissed that I was not bowing down to their so-called racism. Yeah, sure, you did racism. Which is a really fancy word for saying, I did something politically incorrect at the time, but I regret it now, I'm taking responsibility for racism, Jesse Pinkman, what the fuck are you doing? We're meant to cook meth, not to be woke apologists. Why, Jesse? Why? Now I'm thinking, that Jesse show from Disney Channel? Hey Jesse, but it's Breaking Bad. No. Jesse Man? No. Breaking Jesse. Making good. I love Asmongold, man. He's such a bitch. I'm just kidding. He's not a bitch. He's a... What hair color does he have? Brown? Orange? No. Red? I don't know. He's a 36-year-old man. You know? And like, why would you care about his age? Ow. Fuck. 'Cause, my nigger, this guy, excuse me for the swear words throughout this video. He's, I gotta know his age so that way I can get context of when he spawned in. When this guy spawned into the universe. You know? He's better than that Joe Bertolotti or whatever, that I've been in the hills fucking dude guy. Because, like, let's be for real. He fell off so hard. You know, he used to be so cool. He used to be so cool before, like, I want to say, like 5-6 years ago. You know? But he was just like, as long as you stay on the surface level of him just doing insane, stupid shit, then it's like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. It's whatever, you know? I mean, he's not like Hassan Piker bad, or like, what's it called? JJ McCullough bad, you know? He's not that politically correct. That kind of thing. No, he's more like, what can I say? He's more like Meat Canyon, or Papa Meat, as he tends to call himself. Where they're basically just dweebs, you know? Where they probably have extreme opinions, but it's like, and they do, like, they're afraid of words like retard, you know? Which, shame on you if you think that word is actually really offensive. If you ask me, that word is only offensive if you use it in a way that is like, you know, actually offensive to people who have Down syndrome. You know, the mentally challenged. Those kind of folks. You know, the people who actually have the disability. No, when most people refer to retards, they're not referring to, you know, people with the disability. They're just calling actual idiots idiots. Because at least with Down syndrome, you can be like, oh yeah, Down syndrome. You could be like, oh yeah, I'm like this way because I have a disability. The people that nowadays we call retards as an insult, if you're using it as an insult, don't have that disability. Again, we're just using that for people who are, you know, putting it to shame. But I find it ironic that the most people who are offended by the word retard don't actually have Down syndrome, you know? And the people who actually have Down syndrome are like, no, wait. No, wait. We want that word. We want to keep that as our word, you know? Which would make sense if you're retarded, if you're having Down syndrome. I would say, hey, you're allowed to have your word. You know? Oh, you said the swear word. Oh. Okay, I believe in freedom of speech. What's your excuse? You know? That kind of thing. But But it was mean. It was Meaniehead. You were saying violence. First of all, when I do this, that means, you know, that's, you know, what I said doing this symbol, it's not to focus, it's to, basically signal that what they were saying were wrong, or, signal sarcasm, you know, that kind of thing. To say, like, hey, what that person said was stupid or something. That kind of thing. So whenever you see this, when somebody is talking, if they're using it properly, or if they're just using it in the regular, everyday way, yeah, it just means something they don't like, or something that is, like, they think is wrong, or they know is wrong. Either or, that's basically what it means, you know? Or they're just being sarcastic. It's a sarcasm symbol. And the thing about sarcasm is, you can't really do that too much in the US unless you say you're doing sarcasm. Then you can do that. But only after, or maybe before, usually you do that. Or do this, you know? But don't constantly do that. Don't constantly do this symbol, you know, with your fingers, where you're putting your two fingers down on both hands, or one of these hands, you know? Because, like, kind of reminds me of Asmongold, you know? And I like talking about Asmongold because he's funny. So how's your teeth doing, buddy? How is your teeth fucking doing? That's what I thought. Anything you want to say? Alright then. That's the case. Why don't I start talking about sports? Sports ball. Sports ball. Do you think that people who play sports ball actually know that they're playing sports ball? Or is it just like, I just so happen to play with ball and I get money for it? That's what that shit is? That's what that shit I'm getting paid for is? It's a sport? Whoa. Whoa, dude, that's crazy. You know? Are you a LARPer? Are you a Antarctican spy? And speaking of Antarctica, fun fact, the only place I would want to go outside of the US, the only place that I would pay money to go outside of the US, just to experience it. Not to actually live there or anything, just to, like, experience there, just to say I've been there, you know, just be there, just to say I was there. There's only one place in the world that I can think of, and that is the center of the North, not the North Pole, the South Pole. Because, yes, the North Pole semi-exists, or whatever. It exists, you know? That kind of thing. It's really just like fucking 3 continents, you know? Well, technically 4, but yeah, you know? Yeah. It gets weird there, you know? But the real reason why the North Pole isn't its own continent is because that would mean that Russia, nor all of northern Russia, would be in another continent. Whoa-ho! Whoa-ho! Boo-ho-ho-ho. And now that I think about it, when it comes to Alaska, do they have saying Santa Claus comes to the North Pole? Or are they just like, Santa Claus lives here. Santa Claus lives here in the fucking North Pole. He lives over here. We work with him. Okay? We work with him to send them to little kids in Arizona. Little kids in fucking South Sudan. Yeah, South Sudan. Let's care about some random ass country that we're gonna forget about in the next day. Yeah, shoo, it's December. Yeah, we're here in Santa's land. You know what I mean? Da 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 do 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 do. It is what it is. Do. If you ask me what Russia should do is for Russia, what they should fucking do is for the Scandinavian countries, you're the North Pole by default. For Russia, if you ask me, should take the European half, leave it as the European half, and then all that southern half that is not the European half of Russia be, Asia, I guess. And then all the northern parts that's not a part of the European part be a part of the North Pole, be its own continent. Then it'd be a part of 3 continents. Three. And obviously Greenland and Iceland, both of them, should be a part of the, the North Pole continent, that kind of thing. And obviously the northern half of Canada and all of Alaska. Okay? Except for that long tail end to an extent. It should be like North Pole on the more connected end, and for the middle end, it would be, I don't know, North America for some chunks, Oceania for another chunk, and then the rest of the end of the tail is just Asia, Make Hawaii a part of Oceania. Not necessarily as a country, just like continentally speaking, because, continentally speaking, they are, geography-wise, part of Oceania. Ooh. But yeah, I always wanted to go to the South Pole. The South Pole. The South Pole, man. Ooh, I'm brooding for this. Whoa. Sorry about that. But I'm just thinking, hey, maybe these suckers ain't so bad after all. But they get under your fucking skin. And they're like, oh, no. You don't understand. We're oppressed. But whatever. Anyway, I just want to go to Antarctica to experience Antarctica. Just live there. Just be a part of it. Just be with the penguins for at least like 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3. Eastern time zone days. 3 if I'm great for it. And then once I'm done with it, once I'm done with my 3 days, I go home. I go fucking home. To where? Where do I go to? I go to back to where I live at that time. Which would be my own home. My own house. Wherever house that might be in at the time, because right now I'm living in this one. But you never know where I might be living in the future. So, this is a limited edition room, so to speak. For who knows how long. So I could be in here for a long time, I could be in a short time. Or maybe it's not limited edition, who knows. But I think you get the idea. Like it really expands your mind onto stuff, and you gotta understand things to know things. But clearly, fucking clearly, you did not understand any of it. And man, oh man, is life getting hard. It's springtime. It's like the height of springtime where I live right now. And governments and shit. Religions are in shit right now. Well, not really. I thought about converting to a religion, but then the problem with that is that when you convert to a religion and stuff like that, you have to live by their morals or whatever, and so that can affect things. You know what I mean? Or I could go do some research. Find a religion that believes what I believe already. And then, or at least for the major ones. And then, go into that. Lazy man's religion, so to speak. I'm unplugging the device. Alright. Anyway, back into what I was saying. Yeah, I would never be a Muslim. I don't think I would ever be a Christian again. I don't know about Judaism, but it seems like I could go there. Hinduism, maybe. Buddhism, I'm not sure, but maybe. Jainism, probably not. Confucianism, I don't know. Taoism, I don't know. Wicca, maybe again. Let's see, Heathenry, maybe. Any other religions? A local one? I don't know. Jediism, maybe. Star Trekism, technically speaking, maybe. Futurism, maybe. Modernism, technically speaking, maybe. Traditionalism, well, not really a religion, but whatever. Modernism, not really a religion. And futurism, technically a religion. but it's whatever. You know, it's not like that we don't need religion. It's that we don't have to have religion. You know, we don't need it, but we don't have to have it. You know, that kind of thing. Like it's optional. Like it's good for society if you get the ones that allow for good society, whatever religions it may be. But that's generally it, you know? And that's just how it's been for a while. That kind of thing. Not a big fan of bigotism. Bigotism is when somebody has more than one spouse in the same marriage. You know? Like, that's annoying. Like, if it's one at a time, maybe, but in that same fucking marriage, like, imagine being a straight cisgendered man, if you want to call him that, okay? You had a wife. Now, imagine 2 wives. See how crazy that can get? Like, it's already fine with 1 wife, but like 2, yeah, something ain't right. Something not right. Something not fucking right. You know? Like, I don't know, man. I smell danger. Danger, 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 danger. Ranger, 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 ranger. Ranger, danger. And like, you just think to yourself, and think to yourself, and think to yourself. I'm going to give myself a short break and then I'm going to start talking again. Alright. We are back. I think the world is not going to end. At least not in my lifetime. You know? I don't think there's going to be an Armageddon event. I don't think there's going to be a rapture. I don't think there's going to be an apocalypse. I don't think there's going to be a Ragnarok. I don't think there's going to be a big time thing. Because even if it does happen, it's not happening in my lifetime. I don't think that's going to happen. That's for sure. You know? You just don't know these days, do you? Do you? No, you probably don't. You just don't. You just really don't. You think you do, and then they try to pull you in for something. Man, it just gets crazier and fucking crazier every single day. All this stuff goes round and around, round and round, round and round. You get on the bus and go round and round, all through the town. I don't know, man, like I'm just going a little cuckoo crazy, you know? It's like, if I had power over the world, and I could control the world, I would probably make every country, every nation, or make one world, one nation, and I would legalize homosexuality down to a local level, you know? That kind of thing, and I would also legalize transgenderism. But when it comes to homosexuality, heterosexuality too, I'm not just talking homosexuality. Heterosexuality is another way to say straight people. And then obviously the transgenders, I would say don't really get into that stuff until you're at least 18 years or older, because then you'll be old enough to actually understand what those things are, because you would be an adult, at least a basic idea, you know? Then it's like, okay, now you can go out and do that because you're old enough legally to do that. You know? Similar thing. Kind of like drinking or smoking. Now, I'm not saying being a heterosexual is drinking or smoking. What I mean is, like, for drinking, for example, you can have it in moderation, but have it all the fucking time, oh no, that gets strange. Now, I'm not saying, like, abandon your husband or abandon your wife, but, like, look, okay? All I'm really saying is just, like, don't like overdo it, you know? Don't push yourself to get the perfect person. Don't push yourself to get the most imperfect person. Don't push yourself to try to do all these bullshit tests on each other. Figure out if they're still in here, and then you cheat on them anyway. Like, what the fuck? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And then you're complaining that you don't want a child. Oof. That's the man in the relationship sometimes. Generally, it's the woman. You know? Like, I mean, I can get it, but, like, caveman had babies. So it's not like you have many excuses. You might go, but they had better lives. No, the fuck they didn't. The fuck they did not. They were literally cavemen. Okay? They might have, took care of their disabled if they could at the time or whatever. But, like, you just lived till you died, There was no clock, there was no this or that. You either survived or you didn't, Like, that's just how it was. So you had to know shit. You had to actually know shit. At least basic stuff. In order to survive your day-to-day. People have the luxury of not having to necessarily do that anymore. But that's also a problem, because maybe there will be a time when we do have to start doing that again. And so unfortunately there will be a lot of people who are completely unprepared and completely just don't know how to do that. Doesn't matter if you're in the best or the worst part of life. You will have a moment in time where, unless you know how to rely on yourself and others know how to rely on themselves and you're going to have a problem. And also, you would have to know how to maybe speak more than one language. Maybe know how to read and write really, really fucking well. That kind of thing. And it's just so hard for some people to accept. It's just so fucking hard for some people to accept. Because it's like, you never know. You never fucking know when the next... you voted wrong. Let's declare martial law. And, no, I'm not necessarily saying Trump would declare martial law. I mean, he could, but, like, I don't think he's going to do that. But let's say, a politician declared martial law and turned the country into a dictatorship. What the fuck are you going to do? What the fuck are you going to do? Are you going to look at me and go, actually, it's, based dictatorship, actually, because you don't understand, bro. You don't fucking understand. Me, being in this part of the world, and not in your filthy land, makes me superior and you inferior. Now, yes, you can use the word superior and inferior. It's just the way that they are using it is a little suspicious, you know? Like, yeah, we get crap all the time. But it's like, if you want to talk other countries and shit, why don't you talk your own fucking country in the fucking first place? Because you're like, oh, the U.S. did this, the U.S. did that. But it's like, okay, person from Europe. Okay, person from Africa. Okay, person from Asia, South America, Oceania, or even the home continent, North America, or technically Antarctica, but whatever. Don't you be worried about what goes on in your nation? Now, I'm not saying all nations are like, oh, we care about other nations all except our own. No. They do exist, obviously. But what I am saying is that there are a lot of people out there that will go and blame the U.S. for a lot of the shit that we, may or may not have done for whatever reason. And then, oh no, but my country's politicians have done nothing. I don't even know who my politician is. Okay? You don't know who Guy Prestonen, no, Guy Posterian. He is the president of Switzerland, just for context. Well, the current one anyway, time of recording, I don't know nothing in the field in my mind in the way that I know it best. Oh yeah, man. Da-da. What are you gonna do? What the fuck are you gonna do? Are you gonna give me the alert, he's a retard, he has the Down syndrome. Yeah, this video's long as fuck. And I have some information to tell you, bruh. Some important information. I can identify as whoever I want to identify. If I'm a man and then I say I want to identify as a woman, I can in my home country. It's not like other countries don't have high freedom of speech like the U.S. does, or even higher. I mean, just look at Switzerland, just look at Denmark, that kind of thing. But UK, no. They have the idea of freedom of speech. They have speech. But is it freedom of speech? Freedom of speech. No, they don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have the dumb, they don't have the free. And the problem, when you don't have good freedom of speech, what inevitably happens is that the bad ideas actually become more popular because you're constantly censoring them, or just because in general, you're going after them more. That kind of thing. And so because of it, they become more and more radicalized. Now, yes, there are people who do get radicalized because certain people say things. But here's the thing. because it's legal here in the U.S. Guess the fuck what? Guess the fuck what? Bitch. I can criticize the UK because it's like, oh, we want to criticize the US government for doing this and this and this. Okay, person who lives in the UK, you can criticize the US. Sure. Why don't you criticize your own government? Not just for the side you disagree with, but for the side you do agree with. See what the fuck happens. You know? Oh, you're getting arrested for hate speech. You're trying to arrest me, but I'm in the U.S., so you're going against international law. You're a fucking threat. And guess what? U.S. is a lot bigger deal than your little shitty nation. If you try to do that here, if you try to pull that shit here, if you try to arrest me for making quote-unquote hate speech, which is really just criticism of the government. Let's be for real. It's really just a fancy way of saying, you said the thing I don't like about the government, you know? Like, I get it. You might not like those things. You don't have to agree with them. I'm not saying you have to like the things that people like. I'm not saying you have to agree with those things that they're saying. I'm not saying that you have to enjoy or talk or want to talk around people like that, you know? Or give them certain privileges to an extent. All I'm saying is that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go report the police on them or something. You know, it's not a thing here. You can criticize Israel. They're like, oh, but you can't criticize Israel. If you couldn't criticize Israel, you wouldn't be saying, oh, but you can't criticize Israel. Yes, you can. You can also criticize Palestine. You can criticize Israel. You can criticize Palestine. Okay? Those two groups, you can criticize them both. You can criticize the U.S. You can criticize its allies. You can criticize its enemies. You can criticize yourself. You can criticize others. And you don't just have the right to criticize and say things nasty in freedom of speech. Because obviously that's the bigger one, that's the more controversial one. But we also live in the country where you have the right to actually say good things, or make good things, or actually have good intentions that lead to good things. You know? Not just bad intentions that lead to, good intentions that lead to bad things, you know? Or bad intentions that lead to bad things, or bad intentions that lead to good things. No. Sometimes good things can lead to good things. And usually, people tend to not be very hard with the swear words like me, or whatever. I'm just like this because I'm a little rusty with the average lingo. But if I have to go into work mode, or I have to go into, soapy talk mode, I probably won't say a single swear word. I could go on for days like that. But anyway, really makes you think. I do believe in freedom of speech, okay? I do believe that it's possible to have freedom of speech. It's just the only issue is that you have to actually, fight for it. All forms of freedom of speech. Bad and good. Okay? Not just the bad forms of freedom of speech, because that one is obvious. The bad forms of freedom of speech is when you criticize the government, is when you have certain ideas. Because here's the thing, if you let those ideas get out there, if you let people say those ideas, it lets people know, hey, those ideas are bad, those ideas should be avoided. When you censor them, people don't know what you said. In fact, it may even encourage it more, because they think, oh, you're censoring us, you're proving our point right, That's what happened with Hitler. Adolf Hitler. And look how he turned out during World War II. Not so good, is it? And he had a bunch of hate speech laws and things like that. And he also illegalized homeschooling, which to this fucking day Germany has problems with freedom of speech a lot more than a lot of other countries. Probably not as much as England, but maybe they're there. Maybe they're at that point. Two, they also, for some reason, illegalized homeschooling. Like, it's illegal to do homeschooling in Germany. That's a dick move. That's a fucking dick move. And Sweden. Because also, fuck you. Fuck you if you live in a country. Well, fuck your government. Not fuck you in particular. Unless you are the government, then fuck you a little bit. Because you kind of deserved it. That was a bit of a dick move. But here's the thing. You don't have to make that law anymore. Oh, and by the way, the anti-homeschool laws in Germany, that's still put in place because of a law from Hitler. Ain't that crazy? I'm glad I live in a country that has homeschooling. I'm glad I live in a country that lets you question it. That lets you question its power. Its, threat. That kind of thing. I wonder what kind of freedom of speech the U.S. is still very limited on. Like, actual limited on. Not just the whole, oh, Gaza Strip or whatever. No. I mean, like, actually in the U.S. Actually about U.S. issues specifically. Because if you were in your country, whatever country you're watching this from, what laws, if they're there, are there, for freedom of speech? What laws do they have? What laws do they allow? That kind of thing. What laws can you and can't you break? That kind of thing. The best way you can do to support freedom of speech is, I'm not saying automatically break the law unless that's, the goal of you gaining freedom of speech in that way, but like, if you must, you must. Well, anyway, the idea is knowing what speech is allowed so that way you can spread your true message within the limited of freedom of speech that you have, while also fighting for more true freedom of speech in your country. Because if you fight for freedom of speech, you will be able to have freedom of expression, and freedom of religion, and freedom of language, and freedom of, be able to be a certain race or ethnicity, being able to be, like, even mine, or yours, or anybody else's for that matter, or, any sexuality, gay, straight, bisexual, lesbian, transgender, whatever else ism thing you want to be. If you want to be a certain way, if you want to do certain things, if you want to do that, the government ain't gonna tell you, okay? Like, you don't have to be, doing by your government. You don't have to, like, in order for the population to be their country, the government doesn't have to tell them, hey, be this nationality. If you live in that country, you should already be that nationality by default. Doesn't matter the languages, religions, whatever it may be. Whatever the case. You should have the right to have your nation, UK should have the right to have British people in Britain. That kind of thing. But no, you're being racist because it's racist to be British. And British, by the way, is a nationality. It's not exactly a race, but if you want to call it one, then the Muslims in fucking, in the UK, specifically England, are doing a genocide against the British. Are doing an racial, ethnic genocide against the British. That's what they're doing. That's basically what they're doing, and they're getting away with it because the victims who are getting hurt, they're the ones getting arrested because they said hate speech. You know? Hate speech. They criticized the Muslim for hurting people. Now, I'm not saying all Muslims are like this, or that there aren't Muslims who converted, not converted, but, who, you know, who assimilated, that's the correct word, into the mainstream culture of Britain, actually, you know, became British and speaks English, C2 level English, to be more specific, British English, UK English, because that's the type of English that they speak over there, or Welsh, or Scottish, or Irish, but if you're in the England specifically, that would be English, obviously, because that's the only official language I think they would really have, but it is what it is, you know? Well, anyway, and that's just in Europe. You know, that doesn't mention all the bullshit that goes on in Africa. Nigeria, I'm looking at you. Okay? We know what you've been doing in your free time with them Nigerian prince scammers. Okay? I'm looking at you, Egypt, South Africa. I'm looking at you, fucking Morocco. Not trying to give hate, okay? I know that, like, most of your side of the continent really fucking hates you, okay? Or just the continent in general, for whatever reason. I get it, okay? I fucking get it. But on the other hand, you do got some crazy shit going on with your blue city walls. Literally, there's, like, this one town that just has a bunch of, like, blue, like, towns and, like, houses and buildings and shit like that. You know? Something like that. At least that's what I'm told. I don't know. I've never personally been there myself. But if you have, blue has been blued. You know? They do not come in peace, my nigga. That was a racial slur, they said. Must be very smart, they must. Then you have Asia. Where, the Middle East lies. The fucking Middle East. The Middle East. Then you have East Asia and a few other countries in between. Or a lot of countries in between. Like Turkmenistan. Fucking, what's that one country? Something Stan. Pakistan. Kyrgyzstan, I think they're called. I'm not sure if that's actually correct. Simply for the fact that I think I may have made that country up. But given the names, I probably didn't. Then there's Mongolia. Then there's fucking Russia, which is technically Asian. But if you ask me, it's really just a European country with an identity crisis. Then there's China, Japan, Laos, Philippines, Korea, North and South Korea. You know, there's, what's it called? Indonesia, there's Singapore, there's, what else is in Asia? I think I did say India. There's Nepal, there's not too many Asian countries I can think of off of my head. There's, what is there? I don't know, there's a lot of countries in Asia, now that I think about it. But, Oh yeah, Thailand is another one. Thailand, there's... What? A lot of countries in the place in Asia. There's Saudi Arabia, there's Yemen, there's Oman, there's Qatar, there's United Arab Emirates, I think it's called. I could be wrong about that though. There's Iran, there's Iraq, there's Lebanon, there's Israel, there's West Bank. Technically, it's called Palestine, but I prefer to call it West Bank because, well, if you call it Palestine, I think Israel, and if you call it West Bank, I think of Palestine. But it's not like fully a nation quite yet because of the whole war thing or whatever. So maybe there's a potential of me, going with it or whatever. But that's if the war ends in my lifetime and they've settled it after the war. That kind of thing. Which it will end eventually, but I don't know if it will end in my lifetime. I'm just saying. But, if it does end, maybe. So, West Bank for now. Okay? I'm just gonna go with that. That's what it is. If it makes you mad, well, at least you know why. Yeah, and then there's Lebanon. Then there was... What else is there? Jordan. That kind of thing. That's a country. Is it? I think it is. I wonder why it calls itself Jordan. And then there's Turkey, which I guess is Asian, but it's European Asian. It's double continental, Then there's South American countries that, well, let's go with Oceania before we get to South American countries. There's Australia, New Zealand, a few island nations that have funny looking names. What the fuck are they? I know there's like 14 countries in Oceania, but it's like, I don't know, man. It gets weird as shit. You know what I say? I say they're whatever. And obviously there's Africa, and I named quite a few. I could have gone for Central African Republic. I could have gone for Zambia. I could have gone for Ethiopia or whatever. Or I think I said Uganda. And then there was, obviously stuff like Dominican Republic of the Congo. That kind of thing. And I'm not sure, but Lebanon? Where the fuck would Lebanon be? Not Lebanon. I don't know, Algeria? Whatever, there's Togo. Places like that. Then there's, Ghana, Guinea. Alright, that's what we getting on. Then there's South America, which has Brazil, that has, Argentina, Chile, Peru. I think it's called Bolivia, but I'm wrong. I could be wrong about that. I could be really fucking wrong about that. I know I'm probably getting that out of my ass for that one. Then there was like that, French something. I don't know, I'm not too familiar with, South America too much. And then there's, what? I know I'm forgetting something, but I don't know what it is that I'm thinking of in particular. What's it called? I know they separated from Brazil a long time ago. Okay? I don't know what their nation is called. They're a little smaller nation. I think they speak majority Portuguese, but I'm not sure. But it is whatever. They had the first World Cup there, though. There's that. You know? Yay. And then you get to North America, and there's Belize, there's Panama, there's Jamaica, there's Dominican Republic, there's Cuba, there's Haiti, there's... I think I said Jamaica already. There's obviously the Mexico, US, Canada, Greenland. There's El Salvador. And a few others I'm forgetting. I guess technically if you want to consider Puerto Rico a country, there's that as well. I mean, I guess it is, but they haven't made up their mind yet, and they never do. Well, not that they never do. They just take a long time for some reason. You know? Don't know why. In fact, now that I think about it, how is Mexico still a country? Considering all the bullshit they go through day after day, night after night, you would think that at some fucking point, that country would not exist, like, because it would get balkanized or something because of all the conflict. Maybe it will get to that point because it looks like it's going that route, but it's like taking a long ass fucking time, you know? In fact, it's probably better balkanized because it's like it's already fucked up as it is, you know? So maybe making it a bunch of nations will probably make it worse. But I don't know. You tell me, Mexico. What do you think? Will balkanization work? Will it really fix the job? You know, because they do have their prejudices, so... You know, there's that as well. Anyway, what to think about? Then you get to Europe, where you have Ukraine, you have Poland, you have Lithuania, you have Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and you have Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, which is also, I guess, just Ireland. Then you have Island of Man, you have, what's that called? What's that nation called? Vatican City, which I'm surprised it's a nation, but to be fair, Iceland is a nation, so yeah. Fuck up this shit. And I guess technically they're European, but that's their decision, bro. And obviously you have, you have in the UK, you have obviously Northern Ireland, Wales, England, Scotland, a few other spots throughout the places, technically Canada, but whatever. Then you have Portugal, you have Spain, you have France, you have Basque country, you have Liechtenstein, little Liechtenstein, then you have Switzerland, then you have Germany, then you have Austria, then you have Croatia, then you have Bosnia, then you have fucking North Macedonia, then you have Greece, then you have fucking, man, what's it called? There's so many fucking countries, dog. So many fucking countries in Europe. What the fuck, man? Why do you have so many countries, especially in the Balkans? It's like getting microscopic nowadays. And it's changing all the time, too. Like, you could change your nationality multiple times in the Balkans without even ever leaving your hometown your entire lifespan. And you would never even fucking know sometimes, just because they do it so fucking much throughout the centuries, and recently too. And there's also, Lithuania? I'm not sure if I got that right. Considering that there's so fucking many, dog. Why? Why are you doing this to yourselves? Obviously, there's Georgia, not the U.S. state, but the country. They said they got it older, but I'm not sure. Okay? I'm not 100% sure on that, bucko. Okay, and there's what else is in fucking Europe? Comment down below, or make your own YouTube video. Italy. What's it called? San Marino. Hungary. Man, I'm just naming countries off my fucking head. Okay. All continents edition. How many continents can I name? 7. 7. 7. 6, 7. Okay, 7. Fucking. The fucking 6, 7, 67. Ooh, I did it. 6, 7. I did it. I don't the 6, 7. I did it. I don't about it. 6, 7. Whatever, man. This is a very long YouTube video. It's so fucking long. It's so fucking long, man. Do I deserve criticism for this? Maybe. Maybe, man. Maybe. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. What's your fucking excuse? What's your fucking excuse, man? What's your excuse? This is like 3 hours long. Man. Don't touch kids. It's not worth it. That's why I touch consenting adults. Yeah. Real consenting adults, not just little kids pretending to be adults. adults. No. Not just little fucking rascals. I date real women. Not bitches. Not whores. Real fucking women, dog. Adult women. You know? That are my age range, to be more specific. That's my type of adult woman. That's what Epstein's Island should have did. They should have had adult women, you know? Because at least then, if they were going to do that weird sexual shit, it wouldn't have been nearly as fucking bad. Same thing with P. Diddy, you know? If he was only going after adult women, I would be like, hey, at least, yeah, he's a pimp, but he's like, appropriate pimp, you know? Now, I'm not encouraging rape. Rape is still bad. Mind rape is bad. Doing that kind of stuff unconsensually, it's just bad, in my opinion. But look, I'm telling you right now, I would very much do it to adults that are my age, more so than little fucking kids that are not my fucking age. You know? That are not adults either. And I get farther and farther away age-wise from little kids. So no, okay? And then women. Ooh, adult women. They get away with pedophilia a lot. A lot these days. Fucking a lot. It's so unfortunate. You know, like, I don't know, man. Some things happen, some things don't. What are you gonna do? Sue me? Well, don't actually sue me. I'm not trying to get sued. You know? I might say some things, but like, I do have a fear of being sued, okay? Like, I don't want to go into some fucking court because of some other country's stupid laws or something. That kind of thing. And, I don't know, man. I'm just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Eventually, this video will get out and released into the world. Yeah. Now, normally, I would make these kind of videos, and I believe it's Thursday. I would normally make these kind of videos for the next day, but considering how long this video is, I'm probably not going to make it till the day afterward, you know, just in case, that kind of thing. So it would be, what, May 6th, not 16th, yeah, 16th, May 16th, by the time this video comes out. So it would be a good long while. You know? And this video would be fully downloaded hours before this gets uploaded. And I wanted to make this video, like, I just wanted to see how long I could go, but yeah, I really should, like, if I go, like, long, extremely long format, which is what I'm used to doing, I should probably just stick with 1 hour, you know? Because going for multiple hours, multiple fucking hours, is hard work. It's like live streaming, you know? Because you have to think of something to talk about constantly. Fucking constantly, you know? And it gets in your head. It gets in your fucking head. You know? PM, 6:30 PM live is when this begins. You know? That's what I'm hoping on a Saturday. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not sure if it's actually Tuesday or Thursday. But I'll figure it out after this video drops. Or after I get done recording this video. Oh, dude. Like, I'm just so in my head with this. I should have just stuck to my 1 hour format. You know? That's where I realize my maximum is 1 hour. I don't get how these lives, like, if it was live, I'd probably be going way longer than 3 hours. I'd probably be going for like 6 or 8 or 12. But it's not a live stream exactly. It's pre-recorded. It's pre-fucking recorded. Ooh, shocker, I knew. Shocker, it's fucking pre-recorded. Ooh, who would have fucking thought? Who would have fucking thought? Six 30 p.m. on a Saturday night. Wow, 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 wow. Disco, 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 and I go crazy. What was it? Chad. The country of Chad. Niger. That thing. Then there's Sudan. Or should I say, North Sudan? Then there is technically West Sahara, but that's whatever, you know? Then there's Somaliland and Somalia. Yeah, you don't have time for this. You don't have time for this bullshit, right? gonna be honest with you. I have like, what, 40 minutes left until the end of this video? I got quite a bit to tell you. And I know something you probably don't. The Illuminati thinks they're onto me. The Illuminati thinks they're onto me. 'Cause they think they can make their special separatist groups and try to turn me into a transgender woman. Nuh-uh. You can't do that. Nuh-uh. No, motherfucker. You can't do that yet. And even if you did, successfully, you have to realize that even in your own special backup alternative groups, you know, in your special, alternative backup subgroups, even if you keep going to the very end, you're still going to arrive with people you can't trust with or be around with or know stuff with. Because those people will eventually betray you. Or not. They might not. They might be an actual follower. You never know. So, you kind of have to just wait it out and maybe you could figure it out. Or maybe not. Dead or not. Somebody somewhere is a grifter. This grifter knows everything about it. Eventually it will crack. And you will get exposed for your behavior. Like what they did with Epstein. That's just the ones that we know about right now. Imagine the ones we don't know about, man. Scary to think about, ain't it? Yeah. And I'm out there thinking to myself, what a wonderful world. Very, very long video. And I don't know what else to tell you. It just really makes me think. Whatever. I'm telling you something right now. I am telling you something. You gotta hear. You hear? You gotta know. I gotta tell you something. It's a very big secret. Man. Ooh. Gaylord. I have nothing to talk about. Space quantum experiment has failed. They don't know. This house is bitchin'. Ugh. Whatever. You know, I'd just be talking and probably get to somewhere and yeah, you definitely won't watch this video for how long it is. You know? This video is too long to be fully watched. You know? I can understand. But I really gotta shorten my videos to just 1 hour. That kind of thing. My 1 hour limit. Or just end the video whenever it ends, I guess. I don't know, man. What do you think? Do you think I should end the video right now? I made this video way too long. I'm not sure why I made this video so fucking long. It just is. It just is. And I don't know. I never knew Prince, never really listened to his music. The only song I know from him is like, what, Purple Rain? He never really had an impact on my generation like he did a generation or two ago. You know, and even then, I'm not sure if they all know who Prince was. They said he was more popular than Michael Jackson. Then you would have to know who Michael Jackson is to know, I guess, by that logic, who Prince is. Which more people do know who Michael Jackson is. Guess what? Not everybody knows who Prince is. Prince was a musician from a long time ago, and he died. He died a while ago, and he's dead. And he's a individual who was not very good at sharing his music online. And he was an early adapter to it, but like he didn't do it very well, you know? And it just kept going and going and going and going and going. That kind of thing. But yeah, he was never somebody I really truly remembered or knew, at least in the music sense, you know? That's how that works. Then there's Justin Bieber. He was whatever. Then you had the Jonas Brothers. They were pretty cool, you know? They're almost as old as me by a year. They started their band in 2005, started to get big in 2006. Started their first true hit album in 2007. And I think that's when they did the Camp Rock thing or whatever. And then there was like Camp Rock, like what? 2? That kind of thing. And then, yeah, that was about it for them. And then they kind of broke up their band at some point. And then, you know, and eventually they joined together in like 2018, 2019 again. And now they're making music again, but they're not making like great music. They're kind of making like generic, sort of generic mall music. You know, like they're not, I get that they're not going to be quite as good as they used to be, but at least be like the same style of music, you know, the same idea for writing and the same idea for making. Okay, you don't have to make the same exact songs, the same exact way, do this and that. All I'm saying is just like, can you hold on? You know? An empty room can be so loud. That kind of thing. You know? Those kind of lyrics make you really think. In a way. You know? Like you can actually listen to it. And if you really wanted to get down and deep into it, you could. Now it's just kind of like, like I think their last true, like the modern style, like one of the few exceptions would be like, what's it called? I'm a Sucker for You or something like that. That's a good song, but it's like, that's pretty much it, you know? And it was mostly a 2020 hit compared to 2019. I guess it was popular in 2019, but I would say 2020 was really like when it really started blowing up, you know? And but they still make good music every once in a while. Not as much as they used to. Don't get me wrong. There was a golden age there between, I want to say, 2007 to about 2010. That kind of thing. At least for me, anyway. Because that's my nostalgia for them, despite the fact that I was born in 2006. You know? Then there's We Outspoken. We Outspoken is a lot older than I thought they were. You know, they've been around for a long time. But they never really formed as a band until like 2009 or 2011. At least officially. And that's just how they've been ever since. You know? And it's like 4 guys who were in a band that started in Canada. I'm not sure if all 4 guys or however many people are a part of the band, the official band members, are, you know, themselves Canadian. But like it started in Canada, at least that's what their thing says. Then there are, you know, more individuals like Rick Astley, and yes, he has more songs than just Never Gonna Give You Up. And there's obviously the Beatles, but there's only like 2 left. And if you ask me, I think the last living Beatle will be Ringo. Okay? The last living Beatle will be the drums guy. And it will all go back to just him. That's what I think. Not that it will happen. Not that it will happen that way. But that's what I think. He'll be the last remaining Beatle, and then he'll die off. And then that's going to be it for the Beatles. You know? And, yeah. Then there was, Big Time Rush. That was a band that I kind of like. There was Maroon 5, which they were a 1-album wonder, but whatever. They sometimes make good music, but they never make any, like, ever since fucking, I want to say 2014, they just don't really make bangers anymore, you know? Like, they might make an occasional banger every once in a while, but, like, it's whatever. And then you have Justin Timberlake, which, good luck on that Lyme disease, you know? Man... Then there are all those useless people, and by useless, I mean I don't like them, nor do I think they should be as popular as they are, at least in terms of music. You know, I don't know who they are personally. I don't know, you know, their lore or whatever. They could be a good person. But Chappell Roan, I don't know about Dua Lipa, but I guess, but Chappell Roan, if you don't know who that is, doesn't exactly matter. I just don't like her music. Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, or whatever, which, okay. Then there's somebody I'm forgetting. I know it's a blonde-haired woman. Not Taylor Swift. She's already blonde. I'm talking about another one. Okay, that one other lady that has like dying men in her videos, whatever, that kind of thing. Anyway, it's mostly women. Okay, but the only real man I would think is probably what's his name? I forget his name. Little X or something? Whatever. If you ask me, I would say a musician that like really fell off in my lifetime, that I see like started their music career and really fell off. Somebody I could say that did that was, I don't know, that's really hard to think. I suppose maybe, just maybe, you know what? I don't know. I don't know, Lil Wayne, but it's whatever, man. That kind of thing. But I don't know, I don't listen to Lil Wayne, so how could I say that? Oh, I guess Drake, but I think he did release stuff before I was born, I'm not sure. But he's been releasing stuff for a long time. That's what I'm saying. You know? And, yeah, it also fall off in terms of, like, you know, what's his name? Forgot. What was that one rapper's name? I forgot his name. I don't know, man. That guy who made Not Like Us, I don't like that song. He's not Kanye West. I know that. So probably what I forgot what his name was. Some beef with Drake. Oh, Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, he's a fall off too. He's LARPing to hate Drake. He's a Drake hate LARPer. Okay, I don't think he actually hates him. I think they actually planned this out. Not gonna lie. I think the only real reason why there's some beef still going on is so that way they can have attention for fame or whatever. But behind the scenes, for all you know, they're probably sucking each other's dicks. That kind of thing. But if you ask me, if we're talking in terms of hit bangers that I'm aware of, hit bangers that I know of, Call Me On My Cell Phone, you know, many songs like that, I would say Drake is definitely the bigger guy and definitely the guy, I would say, at least in terms of music, purely music, I would say that I like more compared to Kendrick Lamar. But, you know, it's like one bad guy or the other, you know. But when it came to the Not Like Us song, for the like first 3 days that it was out, yeah, it was kind of cool. I kind of liked the song at first. But then everybody started doing it, and then it just kind of became dull and boring and just kind of and then I listened to the full song because I sort of listened to a version of it, and then I listened to the actual version that Kendrick Lamar released, and then I realized the song is ass. This song is ass. Okay? Peak music is We Are Charlie Kirk. Like, that's how weirdly bad it is. You know, We Are Charlie Kirk is peak compared to this. You know, not to discredit, you know, We Are Charlie Kirk. That's actually a pretty good song. But, you know, even if you don't support, you know, what Charlie Kirk believe or anything like that, it's still a pretty good song in my opinion. But the Not We Be Like Us or whatever, yeah, no. No, and then when the music video came out, too late. He should have done that within like a week. Within a week of that song's release, if he knew it was going to be popular like that. Or at least within the same month. That kind of thing. Or within the first 90 days, whatever. But no, he decided to do it all the way like whatever is like some sort of victory lap, and did that at Super Bowl. But he took a while to get to it, but Super Bowl was okay. But I wasn't there for the halftime show. I was there for the actual game. Same thing when Bad Bunny arrived. And Bad Bunny, don't get me wrong, I still like songs that are in Spanish. And obviously I can't give you any direct names because I don't speak Spanish. But I don't hate Bad Bunny because his songs are in Spanish. I just don't like his songs because his songs are shit. His songs are terrible. I don't like him. I never liked the guy, really. At least in terms of his music. I don't know. Maybe he's a good guy behind the scenes or whatever. You know? But, like, the way he made himself, he's like... The way that I seen him, you know, with his songs or whatever, he's just like some very politically bad person. Like, at least with say, Baby No Money, for example, I could be like, yeah, it's not my particular taste of interest, but I could see why people would like that type of music. You know, I can see why, hey, you know, it's very corporate, it's very, like, not my style, it's not something I would listen to, you know, all the time or anything, but, you know, I can see why, you know, you could be a fan of it if you wanted to. Whereas Bad Bunny, it's like, even if it was in English, I still have the feeling that it would just be like, just random ass music, you know? It's not, like, at least Baby No Money, like, sounds like he could make a potential audience, you know, like a Charlie Puth kind of thing. But with Bad Bunny, he's like, how should I say, really annoying as shit, you know? I don't know how else to describe it, but who knows, maybe he has released good music and I just didn't know, you know? Maybe, especially if it was with what do you call it, the Gorillas, I think they're called. Yeah, he probably has released maybe a few good songs, but it's kind of hard to tell considering that most of his solo songs are just garbage anyway. But enough about Bad Bunny, because he's not really that relevant to me, you know. I don't know why I'm talking about any relevant celebrity in the first place, but to be fair, I have been talking for hours, so, you know, bound to probably bring him up at some point, you know. But anyway, enough about, you know, irrelevant celebrities. Let's talk about some more mainstream ones if you want to go for celebrities still. Let's see, what else did I not mention? Oh yeah, TV shows and movies. I'm still working on watching The Flash or whatever. I heard that there are new movies coming out, but I haven't seen anything, you know, get talked about or anything like that, really. There was the Michael movie. but that was pretty much it. And then heard about the World Cup recently, how something happened and this goes this way, that goes that way, but damn, people are just not hyped for it. I just haven't heard shit from it. And the time I do hear shit from it, it comes from somebody who's like, why are you making content on YouTube? You know? Or videos on YouTube. You know? But I'm calling it content because, well, it's just slop. You know? Especially this one Korean fellow. But it's not like he's the most culturally relevant soccer guy in the world. Now, no shame to him. It's just he's like, it's so hard to watch his videos without thinking that he's trying to inject his politics into it slightly in some of his videos. But for the most part, he's alright. He's okay. He's not the type of YouTuber I would watch. You know? He's not somebody I would really particularly be interested in, but it is what it is. It is what the fuck it is, you know? And I don't know what to do about that, you know? But hey, at least the Super Bowl, in the United States anyway, will have quite a bit of relevancy regardless of whoever's going to be in the, what's it called? The halftime show. You know? Whatever, man. I don't like the one that was there, but it was like, yeah, it's the halftime show, so it's whatever. But, I do like the games, though. The Seattle Seahawks winning against the Patriots, that was a big deal. That was a big deal this year. And next year, who knows? Maybe, let's see. Maybe the Dolphins and the let me guess. Let me guess. The Dolphins and the I don't know, Detroit Lions maybe. That kind of thing. Who knows? I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm probably wrong about that anyway. And who wins that Super Bowl? I don't know. The Super Bowl I just made up. But I would hope in it be Lions. You know? What are you gonna do? I hope, man. Fucking hope. And you cope. Nigga. You know? It gets on your head. And then there's baseball. Then there's basketball. You know, baseball has, what's it called? The World Series. Even though it's not exactly the world, but I guess Canada is part of it too, or whatever. Then you have the NBA with the playoffs, you know? Then the playoff final. That's a big game. I wonder if LeBron will win it this year, or next year, that kind of thing, or when he'll fucking retire. I'm hoping that like the year that he retires, he wins it big for USA. Not just big, but I mean like so hard that it's his biggest season that he's ever played in his entire career for USA. And it's so big that he wins the game, and he wins the ultimate biggest game, and he wins everything. And then he retires, you know? So that way it's like this big ultimate thing. But you never know, he could be turn out into an ultimate failure, or, you know, he just leaves. That kind of thing. Because he is still going. He is still fucking playing, dog. Like, at one point, you're gonna have to fucking retire. And once they retire, the NBA is gonna go crazy. And I bet you they're gonna have to cut off permanently the WNBA. Or at least give it one more season of funding. You know? That kind of thing. And be like, hey, if your one season doesn't make profit, we're gonna cut you off. You know? That kind of thing. Or whatever. So yeah, if it doesn't turn a big major profit. If you ask me, it should have made more sense to have a mixed gendered sports. I mean, yeah, if you have, you know, people that are from one gendered sports leagues, obviously the men are going to be stronger than the women. Are going to be better at it usually. You know, in most sports. Not all, but most. And what they should do is to make it even, and because it's pro, set rules and make a mixed gendered sports league, because you wouldn't just be getting men involved, but you would be getting women involved. And on top of that, on top of fucking that, you wouldn't have to go to war. You wouldn't have to go to fucking war to go against and battle it out with another country. You know? Particularly in a sport that isn't the most worldwide, that may be completely regional, or maybe fucking like it's worldwide, but only in certain countries around the world. You know what I mean? Especially if you're from Europe, Asia, or Africa, maybe Oceania, South America, North America, that kind of thing too. You know? Those continents. Because I, for one, would like to see other sports thrive that aren't soccer or association football, as the Europeans tend to say. You might go, but the rest of the world calls it football. Yeah, kind of. You know, they call a version of it, but they don't actually call it football. They call it, they might call it feetball, they might call it bodyball, they might call it, Hoosier, fucking Hoosier, sure. There's cricket, there's American football, or gridiron football, there's basketball, baseball, tennis, golf, and then there's, you know, sports like tackling, the cornhole, the bowling, the fucking what's it called? What's it fucking called? Then there is wrestling. Greco-Roman wrestling. There's swimming. There's running. There's walking. There's jogging. You know, there's hiking. There's fucking climbing. There's digging, I guess. There's eating, because I guess that's a sport too. Many things. Many fucking things. You know? Then there's the whole esports stuff. And if you're talking in terms of traditional sports, yeah, I think soccer might dominate for a while. And I know, so mad for calling it soccer. Such a soccer, Europeans. You can rage about it. I know, a bunch of the world calls it this way or that way. Whatever. But it's like, they're not as mad about it as Europe is, okay? Let's be right about that, okay? European countries. Specifically more Western European countries. But I think you get the idea. You know? But eventually, I want to say right around the 2050s or the 2060s, its cultural power will wear off. And they know this. So they're going to the rest of the global reach that they can possibly have until, you know, it's all said and done and just gone. That kind of thing. And it will never come back. It will never be as big as it once was. And I would say that this World Cup will be the last true World Cup for 2026 World Cup. Anything after that, that's hey, you're just in it for the love of the game at this point, you know? After, you know, the 2026 one. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video in a little bit. But if you want to, you can subscribe. Make sure your notifications are on and stuff like that, and make sure you click the notification bell. You know, you can have it silent, which means no notifications. You can have it personalized, which means some notifications may be recommended to you, some may not. And then you have all, which means anytime I upload anything, when you click all, you'll get all those. And then you can comment, you can remix, you can share, you can put it on your own playlist or whatever. And you could make your own video about it if you want. Anyway, I got stuff I got to do called existing in real life. You know? So I maybe, just maybe, will see you later. I'm slowly getting to it so I can milk it 3 hours. Yes, 3 fucking hours, bitch. All right, you ready? I am out of here. Okay. All right. Bye.